Every shift, you suit up, strap on the vest, and step into the unknown, facing threats most people can't imagine. But the real battle, it's often the one no one sees, the toll on your mind, your body, and your family. Did you know officers are more likely to die by suicide than in the line of duty? Burnout hits over half of us. PTSD rates double the national average, and too many stay silent because asking for help still feels like weakness. Today, we're diving deep into officer wellness. We're going to talk real strategies, honest stories, and tools to help you not just survive the job, but thrive in it. This is the Blue Line Project. Hi, welcome to today's podcast, and this is the Blue Line Project with your host, John Gabrielson. And I'm so excited to be here today once again, talking with you all this week about so many cool topics. We've been covering use of force and supervisory roles in use of force. We covered the proper use statistics, and we laid out what the mission of this podcast is. And that mission is to bring people together, to build trust one person at a time, to educate our law enforcement officers that are watching, to educate community members that are watching, and to talk to our chiefs and things, and just foster a great environment where we can have a great conversation. And moving forward, I want feedback from y'all. I want you guys to send me messages, post comments, and let us know, hey, what topics interest you? What things you think we should be covering, maybe that we're not covering, maybe current events that you want to cover. I want to hear from y'all. That's really important to me as a host of the show, is to bring a good broadcast and bring topics that you guys want me to discuss. If you like this podcast, if you like what we're doing here at the Blue Line Project, please like and subscribe. Smack that bell. If you're on Rumble or other platforms, give us those likes. Follow us so that you can find out when and where the next episode is going to be. Right now, every episode should be releasing on Tuesday mornings each and every week. And I'm excited about that, and I hope you guys love it. We hope to mix in some live broadcasts. I'm hoping to broadcast live from the Chiefs Conference in 3 weeks down in Corpus Christi. So we got a lot coming on or coming up on the show ahead of us. Today, though, we're going to talk about officer wellness and suicide prevention. And I'm excited to have Assistant Chief Wallace from Waco Police Department. He's got 31 plus years in law enforcement and is the assistant chief. And they have a really cool, robust program in Waco. And we're going to talk to him about that and talk about some of the things that have been going up there. I'm with the Austin Police Department for my day job, and we have a really robust peer support program as well. But we're going to focus on Waco today. As we open the show in this little opening monologue, I just wanted to talk really quickly about some of the latest figures on law enforcement, but how much this has impacted me personally. I've been a police officer, as if you guys have been watching the show or know me, 21 years. And I spent the first 13 years, a little over 13 years, working patrol. And I worked patrol in some of the toughest parts in the city of Austin. I spent a lot of my career working what we call Edward Sector, which is the east side, which is traditionally our highest call load and some of the more violent parts of the city. For example, this year, the last like 3 or 4 homicides have all been in Edward Sector. Before that, I was downtown working on a bicycle beat, walking beat, but I was a bike cop in what we call George Sector. For those of you that are familiar with Austin, I work 6th Street, and that's a lot of bar fights and a lot of drunks, and takes a lot out of you, let me tell you. It's a young man's game. I'm too old to work down there now, but I spent, I guess 4.5 years down there. And then prior to that, I worked northwest part of Austin. But this isn't about me and my career, but it's about what I've seen and what I've done and what I've been through and how things on this job have truly affected me, have affected my family. And there for a while early in my career, I was taught, well, you just gut it up. And, we see lots of tragedy and you see lots of things, but you just got to be stronger in it. And you just don't talk about it. You don't talk about it with your family. You just, move on. And so that was kind of the approach that I took. And I left work at work and I came home and tried to live my life. But I realized that by burying those things and not dealing with the stress and the traumatic stress and the things that I saw started to take effect on me. And in 2014, I was involved in my own officer-involved shooting, and I'm not going to go into all the details, but it involved the vehicle, and he spun his tires, and I could smell the burning rubber, and I remember firing the rounds, and then the pursuit. But I would have nightmares at night, and I would smell the rubber and things, and everything worked out in my OIS. The suspect lived and he went to jail and all of that. But just the stress of going through the investigation, the internal investigation, SIU, going to the grand jury, testifying before the grand jury, just the stress, even though it's a good shoot and it's a good case, it's still stressful. And in that, I was stressing and I had a lot of anxiety and what ifs, replaying it. Well, what if I would have done this differently or done that differently? Um, and the department wanted me to meet with one of our staff psychologists, and I did, and we did this stuff called EMDR. And man, it really helped me process a lot of those memories. But here's what I learned. There were things that had happened to me prior to that incident in 2014 that I had buried. And I remember the psychologist, she was like, Dr. Carr, she was like, hey, I need you to focus on this and and talked about things in the past, and stuff started coming up, calls that I had taken, things that happened. I realized that when a friend of mine, Jaime Patron, died back in 2012, or I guess it was 2012. I think that's when it was. Anyways, I hadn't really processed that as well when Jaime died, um, and what happened there. And then I had a young lady die in my arms on a crash, and I hadn't dealt with that. And then there was just all these things that kept coming out, and I realized that I had buried and suppressed all of this, and some of the negative emotions that I was feeling and some of the nightmares and stuff was because of that. And she got me to start talking about it, and then I started meeting with peer support, and I got a therapist, and now really since 2014, I've kind of met with a therapist on a regular basis, and it's helped me through a lot of stress in my life. But unfortunately, there's a lot of officers who haven't taken advantage of these types of programs. And just a couple years ago, an officer that I knew, we worked downtown together, we worked in Adams sector together, and then she was on light duty before she took her own life, working right in front of our office, and I saw her every day for about 6 months before she took her own life. And it happens, and you can't figure out because she wasn't dealing with it. Here's the sad reality, y'all. Approximately 184 officers per year, and this is numbers starting in 2016 through 2022, approximately 184 officers a year take their own lives. They literally take that service weapon that is issued them to protect them and the life of others, and they turn it on themselves. That's 1,287 officers between 2016 and 2022 that have taken their lives. Last year in 2025, there were 59 reported law enforcement suicides. Now, here's the good news. I believe we're doing better as a community in prevention. I believe we're doing better in helping our officers. And so we saw a 27% decrease from the prior year from those organizations that track this, like the Officer Down and things like that, and the Blue Help and other things. But the fact is, police officers face a 54% higher risk of suicide than the general U.S. population. I want you to think about that for a moment. Let that number sink in. 54% higher suicide risk. I mean, that's crazy. And data, I believe, is unreported. I believe there's a higher rates than we may know. I mean, organizations like I said, Blue Help, First Help, they rely just on volunteers, family members to submit notices to them about these deaths, right? And it's an epidemic. It really is. It's something that is affecting us in law enforcement. We have to do a better job. And so this is what this show is going to focus on today. And I'm looking forward to talking to Chief Wallace about what they've done, because and I'll let him share, but they've had a couple tragic incidents up there as well. And so, in 2023, the U.S. saw an overall 49,000 suicides. Law enforcement was a big percentage of those, and they were mostly male, and they were all related to job stress. So today we're going to focus, though, not on the tragedies, but I want us to focus on prevention. Because if we can just save one life, that to me is everything. If we can save one life, that to me is everything. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is because, like I said, these numbers are heartbreaking and uh, it's not inevitable. We can do things to change this. So, right now, we're going to bring on Jared Wallace. All right. I just wanted to welcome Chief Wallace with us. As you heard me talking about in our opening monologue, this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart. And as I mentioned, I see a therapist on a regular basis because of all the things that I went through in my own life. And I'm so happy to have a good friend of mine, Jared Wallace. I met Jared through the Texas Crime Prevention Association about 6 years ago. I was doing some training in Waco, and we've become friends ever since then. And I've watched him promote. When I met him, he was a commander, and now he's an assistant chief. So I want to kick it over to you, Chief. Thanks for being here, and just introduce yourself and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, John. I'm really happy to be here with you talking about this topic. It's something that's very dear to my heart. Uh, as I near the end of my career at Waco PD, this is part of the legacy I want to leave for the next person in this office and for all the officers that are here and will be here in the future. So it's a very important topic that touches all of us. And I can't think of a more important topic to be talking about today than this.
Great. I mean, how would you say your own career path has kind of shaped your view and importance on officer wellness and suicide? How has your career path shaped you?
Well, of course, I'm 56 years old. I've been doing this for 34 years. Some people call me a dinosaur because of that. I like to joke around. I'm actually an elephant because I'm still strong and powerful, and I remember a lot. Unfortunately, some of those things that I remember earlier in my career, when I was on the streets, are they're going to stick with you no matter what. Resiliency's key, but certain things you just have a hard time walking away from. And back when I started this job in 1991, we didn't talk about resiliency. We didn't talk about, uh, talking about these things. Everything was done in silence, and you couldn't share these emotions. So, as a young officer, I didn't know how to do this, and really, it was hard because as a young officer, you're out there, you're active, you're seeing you know violent scenes. You are involved in violence yourself. You're being shot at. You have um, you know infant deaths that you investigate. So many things that occur that you're not prepared or equipped for here. You're equipped
Yes.
to perform the job as a police officer, but you're not equipped to manage and process that. We did a terrible job preparing officers back then, and so it it really was a huge transition for me as I promoted up to understand how different and how wrong our profession was at managing this. And it really, I'll be honest, until I was much older into my career and was a commander and had a son that was a Marine who became um, a suicide prevention officer, and I started talking to him about the things that the Marine Corps was doing. Did I finally get it and
Mm.
understand this? There are better ways of doing this than what we have traditionally done in policing. So um,
Wow, that's personal. Wow. That's amazing. Like, is your son still in the Marines, or did he get out?
he's still in Marines. He's going to be getting out later on this year, and very proud of him. He's an amazing young man, and that his um, his education as an instructor for the Marine Corps in their program has been a great education for me, and it's helped me to understand what we can do better, especially when suicide hit our department here at
Mm.
Waco PD.
Yes, I know you'd shared with me when I was up in Waco a few weeks ago. You'd shared with me the tragedy that happened. Do you want to share with the audience just a little bit as we talk about some of the changes Waco has made and how that is now impacting your agency with these recent deaths?
Yeah, I'd be happy to share because it's something that we work on every day. We talk about every day here at the executive level at Waco PD. And for us, Waco PD's our agency is a mid-sized agency. We have authorized strength of 297 officers, and again, I've been here for 34 years. Um, in in August of 2024, we experienced our first suicide
Mm,
of an officer, and it was tough. Jesse was a great officer, high performer. In fact, he was next in line for the sergeant's exam for the promotion to sergeant. He's a SWAT officer and just a great guy, Christian. You know, not what if people don't know what those indicators are. Not somebody a layman would think would be a risk for suicidality.
mm,
Um, he sadly committed suicide, and it was a shock to us. I had recently promoted to assistant chief a few months before and had been working on a organizational assessment of our resiliency just to see where we are because there were some signs, there were indicators that things weren't right. People um, were distant. There's a lot of frustration, and so part of that's just being a cop, right? But there was more than what we thought was healthy. So I was promoting the idea of having an organizational health study done, and I really wasn't getting any traction. Uh, People were very suspicious. Of course, here's the new assistant chief with all these big ideas. You know,
mm.
uh, can't trust that. Leave that
Yeah, we
alone.
never trust a chief, right?
No, don't trust chiefs. Don't trust chiefs. They never look out for you. It's always immediately at a certain level. We're no longer one of them. Even though I was an officer in grade one for 29 years of my career, uh,
Wow.
I was.
Wow.
You get into this position, people think of you differently. They're very
Yes,
suspicious, and
it's very
of
true.
course, those suspicions came out. Um, couldn't really get any traction with it, and then when Jesse committed suicide, boy, that shut it down even more because then it became about the suicide.
Huh.
Um, so it was really challenging, but I stuck to it and continued working on trying to address and understand more what's going on with our people. And I was really fortunate. Uh, you know, of course, you have influence when you have rank.
Yes,
Yes, that's organized leadership. But
absolutely.
what really matters in situations like this is those individuals without rank, but with all of the leadership and trust and respect
Mm,
of your officers and professionals. And
wow.
fortunately, I had a couple of guys on our peer support team that was highly respected. Both of them were SWAT officers and did amazing things in their career. People had the utmost respect and believed in their integrity. Well, they came to me and they said, "Chief, um, we want to understand. What do you want to get out of this? Where do you see this going?" And I explained my why, and they 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 bought in. They said, "That's great. What we think you should do is come to us to all the roll calls. Just walk in, you say what you just told us, and walk out. We'll take it from there." And within 2 weeks after accomplishing that, we had a statistically valid survey of the whole
Wow.
department, not just police officers.
Amazing.
And sadly, the very next day after getting a statistically valid survey, we had our second suicide in
Oh my
January
gosh.
2025. Once again, another high performing officer, um, out of the blue, not what we expected at all.
Wow.
So that that led us on the journey to where we are today. That and the fact that when we got that valid survey back, the data that we saw indicated that the problem was much bigger just as we
Mm,
suspected. And so we realized that we had a lot to do to change the culture of Waco PD, to create a culture of care, and to normalize talking about emotional well-being and resiliency.
yes.
And and so we've been on a crusade ever since then.
Wow. Wow, that is touching. I mean, when we lost Christy a couple years ago, I still get emotional because we just didn't see it coming, it was just there. So I've walked it, I mean, I know we knew Christy had been going through a lot, and the department, I'll give APD, they tried, they did a lot. Like, she was in touch with peer support, and she just made a decision to take her own life, and so it is near and dear to me because of that. And what I'm hearing is that Waco has made some huge advances just in the recent years, and you've shown the leadership in that. Can you just kind of walk us through one or two specific initiatives that you guys have implemented that has helped? Maybe it's in the peer support or training, fitness, something like that. Just can you share with us those things?
Absolutely. So we have done a lot, and it's been a lot all at one time. First of all, there's money out there for agencies. We've applied for a federal grant and a state grant. The federal grant we received, we just applied for the state grant, but the federal grant was a a grant for $200,000 over the course of 2 years, zero
Mm,
match. And with that, what we did was we are bringing in specialists to help us understand us. Um, a gentleman by the name of Mike Alexander, former APD sergeant,
yes.
uh, who is absolutely amazing. He talks about plasticity in policing and the police life cycle, and how we can use enneagrams as leaders to understand each other and recognize stress. Um, we're bringing in Marcel Brunel, uh, who wrote the book Dignity in Policing, and Marcel is an amazing instructor, psychologist that focuses on how to build emotional resiliency and how to
Hmm.
expand our emotional um, playbook, so that because you know how it is with police officers, we become numb to so many things, and
We do.
he's trying to get us to feel again, which is amazing.
We just
Um,
bury it, right? I mean,
we
we're
do.
so good at it. Yeah.
We were so good at it, and because of that, we also make excuses for it. So, you
Hmm.
know, like even if you get to somebody to say, "Yeah, I might go to counseling, but I can't afford it, and I don't trust
Hmm.
um, our employee assistance program." Uh, so we have a solution for that. Part of this money is paying for cops to go to counselors. So we got it. We tell them we got it. We got money for it. So you don't have to pay for it.
That's awesome.
We try to remove the excuse. Yeah. We're bringing in the finance cop to talk about finances, because we know it's not just the job that is a stressor. It's also a lot of times it's finances, sometimes it's family. So, with family, we have a family peer support program with our own CISM trained instructors that are they're family members of cops here at Waco
Yes.
PD. They help on the family side. We also teach not only are we teaching emotional resiliency, but we're also teaching moral resiliency, because we know when we have uh, these emotional injuries, a lot of times that manifests into moral injuries as well, because we're
Yes.
really bad about choosing the wrong thing to treat
Hmm.
the harm that is in our mind.
Absolutely.
So uh, I could go on and on about the things that we're
No,
hiring a psychologist. I mean,
that's,
we're really piling it on, because what we've learned, John, and I'm sure it's the same way at Austin PD. There's no one solution that's going to solve everybody's
hmm,
problem. So you have to create as many options for your people as possible to create that place of trust where they feel like they might be able to reach out and seek assistance.
hmm.
So
No, they
we also,
have.
we focus on the physical as well. We give our officers 3 hours a day or 3 hours a week to work out physical fitness
Oh,
on
that's
duty.
awesome.
They can also use that for psychological wellness as well. They need to go to a quiet space we have them here at the police department, and that's part of it too.
Oh
So,
no, that's amazing. I know it here in Austin, they expanded our peer support program and they have some outside services as well. And the chaplain program, they've expanded that. And I know that there was two chaplains. One of them passed away a few years ago, but he played a huge role when I was going through a divorce, a pretty nasty one. And just to have that chaplain, so I had stress of my job, and then I had that stress, and then in that time frame I had an IA case that I was dealing with, even though it turned out to be, so you're dealing with three different things, and so to have somebody to talk to was amazing. And then like I said, Dr. Logan, she had brought in things like EMDR and other therapy treatments that they have required, like officers that go through an officer involved shooting or a traumatic incident. They're connecting the services. And it's really helped because I've seen the change in the culture at APD, and now hearing it from you, and I've traveled around the state as well. So I'm just excited to see what we're actually doing, because this is a huge problem that we've had in law enforcement. We've always bared our heads. I mean, in the opening monologue, last year we lost 54 officers in the line of duty to their own gun, right? And it had nothing to do with felonious activity. So this is a huge problem. As I think that from a command level perspective, what do you think are the biggest barriers? You talked about some of them earlier, but what do you think are some of the barriers that officers have? Is it the stigma? Do you think it's fear of maybe impact on their career? And maybe give a little more detail on how Waco did break those down, and what strategies you guys use for that to break those
well,
stigmas and fear.
it's big. It's huge. Um, you know, it is really hard to get through that stigma. And first of all, we're taught to defend. We're taught to be the protectors. We're supposed to serve the weak and vulnerable. So how do we see ourselves as weak and vulnerable?
Mhm.
That's a conflict that we have in our head. We're taught to be the one that runs towards danger. Like, heroes don't wear capes type deal. I mean, I've got it in my office, and that's who we are. Um, and so everything that we train about in the traditional policing sense builds up this wall between um, who we are
Mhm.
truly here and our own vulnerable self and who we present to be. And it's a hard wall to break. Um, so there's a few things that we do. One of the things that we do is we we do talk about that that concept of police officers being superheroes, and um, and there's a lot of superheroes and anti-heroes out there, and we use some of the superheroes as examples of who we strive to be. Captain America, for example, rather than the Punisher. We
Yeah.
talk about the moral injuries that the Punisher has, as opposed to Captain America, and what he stands for, and how he's continually that individual. Um, we use examples such as that to help connect what we do to what we feel, and then um, just creating places so that it's okay to be vulnerable.
Mhm.
One of the biggest things that we had here was the recognition that as leaders we have to be vulnerable. We have to be able to talk about our feelings, our how we feel,
Yes.
our stressors, and let people know that they're not alone. A friend of mine who is one of our commanders at Waco PD, he actually produced a video that talked about a time in his life where he was handling things the wrong way, and talked about uh, a moment in time where he almost became a victim of suicidality himself with his
Mm.
own gun. And he was willing to share that with the department, and we we had everybody watch it. That became a training video,
Wow.
and that really changed things for us. I'm so amazed at Commander Long's strength to be able to do that, and be as vulnerable as he was and
Mm.
present that, because then it became okay for many more people to talk about it than and it really helped shape the conversation of what was next, and that was building out what we call the Waco police culture, that is really focused on building a culture of care, creating a safe space for everybody to talk about how you feel, to seek help, to watch out for yourself, to watch out for your partners, to connect with peer support whenever you see something happening,
Mm.
that you see changes that are taking place, and it, just get away from that assumption that everything's fine, or
Yes.
you know, they're talking. I don't have to worry about it. It's not me. There's a lot to it, so you have to unpack a lot,
Hmm.
and you still have untrust. I'll give you an example. So, um, I just got finished with my mental health check, and this is the first year that we've done this. Literally 15 minutes before our taping of this, I was talking to a psychologist,
Right.
um, and we made it. We offered up a full physical wellness check for half of our police officers, and incredibly enough, we had a waiting list for people to get into it. We actually got more than
Oh, wow.
half of our department. It was really incredible. The assessment is amazing, what we're providing for our
Wow.
officers. But one of the things that happened was they didn't notice that a wellness check was part of it. They were focused on the heart, the organs, competing how many push-ups you can do, all those
Right.
things. Got down to the time for our check-in, and and then it's like, whoa, wait a second. You didn't tell me about
They
that.
didn't they didn't pick that. That's funny. Surprise.
Exactly. Exactly. So
Uh,
we had to tell them, look, signing up, showing up. That's what's mandatory.
yeah.
Nothing more, because I mean, it really shut people down. I but I said, all you have to do is sign up and show up. What you say is fine. You can tell bad dad jokes. You can play tic tac toe. Don't care. We just got to get you there.
I
You
love it.
know, and so you know, just creating that space where people feel like, okay, we're doing this. I'm part of doing this, and we're all going to do it together. That's really helped, and it's been amazing, because I've seen some of our crusty old day shift sergeants, who you would think would be the last to be interested in this, saying, "You know what, Chief? I'm glad you're making that mandatory, because we need that." That really
That's
tells me
awesome.
we've turned the corner.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's huge. I mean, to get what I call the old heads, I guess I'm an old head now, but the even older heads than me, we have guys still at APD. They're, what are we? The guys are 35, 36 years in, and they've a lot of them have softened up to this as well. Even my own partner Frank, he's really softened up to it. That you say that, research says suicide rates, I thought I think it's 54% higher, or right in that ballpark, than the general population. So, in your experience, what would you say are some of the specific factors that lead to this? I know shift work is one of them, but what do you think are some of the other factors? I've mentioned some, but I just want to get your thoughts on that, Chief.
Sure. First of all, I think it's how we hold ourselves. I mean, we teach every officer, you are the strong one. You protect the weak and vulnerable. You run to the harm, um,
Hmm.
and so we build up our officers from the academy that they're almost invulnerable.
Yeah.
Then and we train them up, traditionally speaking, we train them up to um, to have that violent encounter, you know, to survive that violent encounter like you did. Um,
Yes.
but traditionally, uh, we don't train well to survive the emotional encounter of pulling a dead child out of a car, or working, that violent death. Uh, or if, working the death of one of your own officers.
Mm.
whether it's to violence or suicide. Um, and that is the big issue. They say, to get a better i- rate of reduction on PTSD, you have to prepare people beforehand. It's that whole resiliency thing.
Yes.
We've done a terrible job preparing people beforehand for the things that they're going to see and encounter. And, it's not just about, how do we collect evidence? How do we shoot? How do we defend ourselves? How do we write a report? Um, it's how do we decompress? How do we work
Yes.
through that? How do we prepare for our day? You know, um, how do we connect with a higher being?
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
so that's what we've learned as leaders is we've got to make those connections, and so we do things like our we have a chief of staff, and he hosts Bible study once a month at the department.
That's awesome.
He's not one
Yeah.
of our chaplains. He's one of us, but here he is leading and just doing things that, um, whatever we can do to break those barriers down so that it doesn't feel so formal. It just feels natural.
Yeah. Oh no, I love that. I tell you, having I think early on in my career, I sometimes I thought I wore an S on my chest, right? But having my faith and being able to pray and work through those things and turn to a higher authority has had a huge impact, I know, on me. And you mentioned those stresses. I tell people and young officers, you're going to have someone die in your arms, and you have to learn how to deal with it. And for years, when it happened to me the very first time, I pressed it down.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it. And I remember when I was in a session with Dr. Logan, I broke down in tears. We weren't even talking about my one critical incident. It was this incident. And it just came up in conversation. And even now, I still choke up because I remember it wasn't even so much the 26-year-old mom, it was a child. And you get so used to wearing that S that you think you can save that life, but then you can't. And then you bear that trauma, right? So it is real, and it affects us. And even now, it chokes me up when I think about that moment, but being able to process it and work through. So that's why I love what you're doing, because, this is so important. And I think there's early warning signs that I think you would agree with. How are you guys going about training officers and supervisors now for those early warning signs? And what changes have you made as a result of the last two deaths as related to the warning signs?
Well, we post frequently what those warning signs are, so that people are reminded of that. It's front and center, and that's really helpful for us to put that information out. We have an app that the city's purchased, um, that sends us. The city didn't even ask; they just put it on all of our phones. You know,
Mm,
so it's there, and of course, officers can turn the alerts off, but it's set up so that there's regular daily reminders. There's videos. There's just check-ins where you can you can check in and say, "Hey, this is how I'm feeling right now." So we have that, and then long term, what we're working on is we're going to use our data to help us do this.
yes.
Really, two things: the data. We're working with an organization called Benchmark Analytics that is building up a stress injury um, scorecard for each of us, and it bases their information on the calls for service that we go on, the investigations that we investigate, uh, whether that's primary or secondary, our use of force, our the number of pursuits that we're in, our investigations, our internal investigations, our sick time, the amount of overtime. All these things are put together in a database, and it goes back to the start of our career. It's not just a point in time. Um, and with that, we identify a scorecard for all of our people. That also that that database also connects us with a culturally competent psychologist or clinician
Mhm.
24/7. That when the officers see their scorecards, see their risk score go up, um, they have the access 24/7 to connect with a clinician immediately. But we're also kind of keeping that going so that our peer support team members and our first line supervisors also have access to that information too. So they
That's
see
awesome.
who the high risk uh, um, stress injury officers and professionals are, and they're proactively managing it. That 24/7 contact to clinician is also a
Yes.
coaching contact to tell a sergeant, okay, if the sergeant has questions, how do I approach Officer Wallace about this? Because I see his scorecard's up, his risk is up. I think it's a combination of him working too much and
Yeah.
seeing some of the things that he's seen here recently. How do I approach him about this topic? What might be going on in Officer Wallace's life that could be causing this? Betting there's more to this than him just answering these calls, seeing these scenes, and working a lot of hours. There's probably something else we're missing.
Yeah.
Uh, and so it creates that opportunity as a first line supervisor and as a peer support team member to try to connect with the officer and have that conversation go in a positive way. The other thing that
Abs-
we're doing, we are building out a program called Checkpoints
okay.
from it was started out in Dallas PD by Assistant Chief Ruben Ramirez after the 2017 um, shootings that took place
Yes.
there, where it's kind of a level in between our officers and team members and peer support, where on a daily basis they're proactively looking and seeking to find those situations and then
Yes.
connect with everybody from the call taker all the way to the crime scene and the investigator in a timely manner to just check in on them, um, give them a QR code with some resources, and just make sure that everybody's okay. Uh, Ruben has put together a great program. We're
Wow.
excited about it. We
Yes.
also think that there's some technological opportunities there that he's working on that are going to benefit us too. So we're doing it here, with our heart, but we're also
Mhm.
using data and evidence to help us build out a better process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love the fact that you guys are making data driven decisions. Like, that's huge because we talk about evidence based policing. And if you've listened to any of my other episodes, I'll bang on chiefs that love to use the catchphrase evidence-based policing, but then they don't actually look at evidence or they look at the wrong evidence. But you're actually doing it. And I know that your chief Victorian is huge into that. So is my chief Davis. So totally understand that it's huge. But now with this good data collection and the success that you're seeing, what do you think we could do better on the national and state level to improve it? Because I feel like we don't get the support maybe that we should from our national or state partners. What do you think we could do better in that area?
Well, there has to be more talk. First of all, as leaders in our organization, we have to show our vulnerability. We have to talk about it, and it starts there. But there also needs to be an understanding from the state and national level that throwing money at it isn't the solution. Safe Leo is a great program. It's a national program to help us uh, reduce our stress and risk of stress injuries, um, but it's not funded well enough. You know, we need more um, culturally competent professionals helping us through this process,
Hmm.
and driving and formalizing and normalizing our processes to take care of our people. Uh,
Yes.
I think we're at the beginning of it. I think it's going to come. I really do. I
I
look at
think so
what's
too.
happening with the military, and I know the
Yes.
successes they've had, and I feel like like many other things, we're going to receive the benefits of all that
Yeah,
as
I would agree with you. I agree. I think I mean, for me, I just think that there needs to be a national conversation. I feel we spend so much time on fallen officers that die in the line of duty, as quote unquote, because of crashes or being run over or being shot and killed. We don't bring enough national awareness to this element, and I think some of it is a stigma behind it. And we as a profession have a hard time acknowledging that we lose more officers by their own firearms than are shot and killed in the line of duty. I think that's a major role for listeners right now. If you could just talk to those officers, because I do know officers that listen to the podcast and have started listening. If someone is struggling today, what exact steps would you ask them to take? And you know, share with them that this isn't a sign of weakness, but rather strength of seeking help. I mean, what would you say to those listening today struggling?
well. First thing I would say is you'd be amazed. There's a lot of us out there that are receiving services or have received services. You're not weak by going. You're much stronger by admitting your vulnerabilities, admitting that you're human,
Hmm.
and seeking help. Um, you may not know where to get that help. You may not trust, where to get that help. But I promise you, there are so many opportunities out there. You can you just have to take that first step. Um, the Whether it's within your department, within your church, um, within a state organization like the Texas Peer Support Law Enforcement Peer Support Network, um, with their blue chip program, um, whether it is just reaching out through say a bad word, EAP, or other programs.
Hmm.
There's just opportunities there, and I promise you, there are people that care for you, uh, that are going to be um, so happy to see you healthy and on the other side. Uh, I can tell you that as a chief, we sometimes people make mistakes. We have to address those mistakes, but we still love you. We're still proud of you. You're still part of our family, no matter what happens. You know,
Hmm.
um, and no matter what happens, we can get through it to the other side. Uh, I promise you, there's life on the other side. I talk about the commander that shared his vulnerability.
Hmm.
That was as a police officer. Look at what he's done since then. Look at how many lives he's touched. He told his story, and I promise you, has saved lives just by telling his story.
Amen.
So,
That's
um,
amazing. Chief, what I've been hearing you say as we wind this down, I just got a couple more things. Leadership matters is what I'm hearing you say at the end of the day. So with that thought, what message do you have for other chiefs and command staff about their role in this culture change? I've heard you say being vulnerable. Is there any other advice that you would offer a chief or command staff that's listening?
sure, it's going to start out by just saying, um, that Simon Sinek is right. This isn't an infinite game. There's no stop. There's no end to it. Daily,
Hmm.
we have to walk the walk. We can't just talk the talk. It has to be part of our leadership process every single day. Um, you can't have an app for that and that create that solution. You can't put a poster on the wall. Um, our culture is has built up this wall over decades of policing. And the only way we change our culture is by working on it every single day and connecting with people. We have to be vulnerable. Uh, we have to work on it on a daily basis.
Hmm.
We have to build systems within our system, to create that safe space, that safe workspace. We have to recognize when we're the problem, because so many
Yes.
times we create the stress for our people. Um, And a lot of that has to do with our first thoughts, you know? I can tell
Yes.
you right now, we had a conversation with leaders here with one of our officers who had a near-death experience about one of our officers who had a near-death experience about 5 years ago, and, they're on FMLA right now because they had a very similar situation occur. Survived it,
Wow.
had some injuries, but they survived it, um, and, you know, as leaders here, our first thought is not that he's taking advantage of the situation. It's recognizing the emotional stress that that situation
Yes.
occurs. As leaders, we have to think that way. We have to ask, "Why might this be?" Rather than
Absolutely.
assuming. Um,
Absolutely.
for some reason, we forgot that we're investigators ourselves, and the first thing about a good investigator is they're inquisitive. They don't
Yeah.
assume
Ask a lot of
anything.
questions.
Ask the
Mm-mm.
questions. Let
Amen.
people share, you know?
Amen. Absolutely. I agree with you. I'm not a chief. I chose not to promote. Some might call me a dullard, but I fell in love with the job that I do, and I do believe that in leadership from the bottom, and I talk about my leadership training. So I think what you're saying is critically important. And I got just a couple extra minutes, but how do you think families and community can support our officers' mental health, and what role do they play in this prevention strategy as well for my families and the officers' families?
Well, you you touched on something that's really top hot for me because my wife is a registered nurse, and our roles have reversed as she's gonna come into this job and dealt with her stress. Um, it's so important to uh, to have connection with family. Um, for family members, y- you know, we need that support. Uh, we need that connection. We need that safe space. Um, it's hard because there's stress in life at home as well.
Hmm.
But just be able to read your first responder and recognize what's happening with them. They love you, you love them. Be inquisitive before making assumptions. Um, and be that safe space for them. And don't let them crawl into the bottle.
Yeah.
Don't let them hide away behind the basketball game or the football. Definitely not basketball or baseball because there's games every night or every other.
Or the
You know,
NASCAR race on Sunday.
yes. Get them out of the house. Get them involved.
Yes.
Keep them connected to community because that they need it. We need it,
Amen.
and we need that life away from the job because this job doesn't define us.
And unfortunately, Chief, too many officers, and I've really strived to not let this job define me, but officers, that's all they are. And unfortunately they retire and we see them pass away because that which defined them is now gone. And I think that's a tragedy. Final question, looking ahead, I know that I have hope for the future because of the improvements that I've seen in the Austin Police Department. What gives you hope that we can continue to lower these numbers? Because we did see a drop of almost 27% from 2024 to 2025. So as we're in 2026, we're looking beyond. What gives you hope? And that'll be our final question.
So, what gives me hope is the people that we have here. It's we're a different set of officers from when I started in 1991. Um, the new generation of people coming into policing, and it's been like this for a few years now,
Hmm.
they're comfortable talking about this. They've gone through COVID. They've worked through high stress situations already before they got here, and they're comfortable talking about how they feel. And that that strength and courage to be able to do that is absolutely amazing. And that tells me we are, we they're innovators to our profession, right?
Yes,
So
absolutely. Yeah,
the more adopters that we have that are comfortable, it tells me we're going to win ultimately.
exactly.
We're always going to have people that won't, but we're going to win, and it's because of the people and the resiliency that they practice every day, and they call and what they call us out for not doing as leaders when we're not doing it. Uh,
Yes.
that that's what gives me hope. That and the fact that we've lifted the veil. It has gotten so bad that
I
nobody
agree.
can ignore it anymore. And there's state, federal funding. Cities are paying for it. We're hiring a psychologist at Waco
Wow.
PD, mid-sized
Nice.
agency. We're hiring a psychologist, not
Awesome.
just for our people, but also for our officers and professionals' families as well. And they're not reporting to police leadership. We don't know anything about it. We're not using them for hiring. We're not using them for fitness for duty. We're not using them for testing procedures. It is just for our people. Um, those are the things that give me hope. And
Wow. That's amazing.
it is. It is. I'm really
That's
proud of
that's
where we're going.
I I, I man, I'm excited. Like, man, I need to get you. We can do better even at APD. I know we can, and what you guys are doing, that's just exciting. And I just want to personally thank you for coming on today, and sharing your thoughts. I know this is a hard subject, and just being vulnerable and opening up. Assistant Chief Wallace, do you have any final words? Anything to wrap up as we close today's episode?
We talk about this being, you know, Officer Wellness Month, you know, um,
Yes.
but it's not month long. It's year long. It's lifelong, even after retirement, like you mentioned. The you know, have good practices. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Remember who you are. Reconnect with the old you before you became a cop, because I promise you, you're going to love life so much more. And and no matter what, take care of the guy beside you or girl beside you, because you know you and I have both experienced it. Um, it's hard to lose someone you love because of
Mm,
suicide. It's hard that that to think that somebody that you knew had your back chose that. So
yes.
be there for them. Have the courage to not only get help yourself when you feel the need, but get them to help too, because
Yes.
that's how we get through it. Just like just like we have each other's six out there on the streets, we got to have each
Yes,
other's
sir.
six here too.
Absolutely. Well, Chief Wallace, I just want to thank you for coming on today's podcast. I'm looking forward to it. And your insight was amazing. In the details and in the notes below, y'all, there's going to be crisis hotlines and things for y'all to check out. I'm going to make sure I put those in there for y'all. So check that out. If you like today's show, say thank you to Chief Wallace. Drop us a comment, send us an email. And Chief, I just want to thank you for having you on the show. We'll see you
Thank you
next
so
time.
much, John. I
Yes,
really
sir.
appreciate you. You're an awesome dude.
Thank you so much. I
You are.
appreciate that.
I've learned a
It
lot
means
from
a
you
lot.
over the years. I'm glad to
That's
have you as a
awesome.
friend.
Well, we'll have you back on the show, talk about a positive topic down the street, down the
Sounds
road. All
good.
right.
That sounds great.
All right. See you later, Chief. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Wow, that was a great interview. I enjoyed having Chief Wallace on, and I hope you guys got something out of it. There's a lot of resources out there for my officers that are listening to this. If you need help, please seek it. We don't want to lose officers by their own hand. Our job is very stressful. We went through a lot of the things that can affect you and affect your family. So, just know that you have like Cop to Cop, and I'll put these numbers up here, but you can reach them at 866-267-2267. Blue Line support at 855-964-2583. You can also text BLUE to 741-741 and reach out to your local police department, your EAP, peer support programs. Please take advantage of all those because we want to save a life. And again, just a thank you to Chief Wallace. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Again, if you like this podcast and what we're doing here at the Blue Line Project, please like, follow, share the link with your friends, tell everybody, help us get our viewership up. And let's just make this podcast really grow. I can't do it without your help. So thank you again. And signing off for the Blue Line Project is your host, John Gabrielson. See you next week.